Well, Sammy, opening night win against Dallas. Take care of business. On
Yep.
the road against the AFC champs in their house in Arrowhead. Take care of business. On the way
Yep.
home, LA Rams, game 3, divisional round matchup. We'll see if the Birds can take care of business once again. It is a Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage. You can visit bankobeverage.com. And by Cat Country 96, Maryland Mike. That's where you're going to
Yeah.
find them calling the game on Sunday between the
hmm
Eagles and the Rams. Sammy, how are we? How we feeling? 2-0. What's your vibe right now around this team?
Well, it's a pretty good vibe. I only have one concern. I think you probably know what it is. We'll get to that in a second. I feel I don't believe we were 2-0 last year. So I think we have
No.
a better record this point going into this season as we
If
did
you
last
remember,
year.
they had Atlanta on Monday night, and
Yeah.
Saquon had the drop at the
Yep.
goal line, and then Atlanta goes down the field and
Mm.
scores.
Isn't that amazing? We are
Um,
Eagle fans. We remember the drop from Saquon, even though
he
Super Bowl
doesn't do
team.
it a lot. There's not a lot of bad plays from
You know.
Saquon to remember.
Um,
Um, so
but yeah,
talk to me about it a little
yeah.
bit though, because it feels like, well, I'll give you the perspective that I think most people have.
Sure.
Happy that the Eagles are 2-0.
Right.
Questions about the offense. I think there's still those lingering after effects of the 2023 season of
Mhm.
Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni and not a creative offense and all of
Right.
those elements. And so I think those are lingering for folks a little bit. On the flip side of that, I would also say you've got the best offensive line in football, and you didn't have Saquon Barkley then either. So I'm
Good point.
curious what your perspective is, what your kind of takeaways are. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball through the
Sure.
first 2 weeks, just kind of where it is and where you want it to go.
Okay, I'm going to start with. I'm going to begin with last week's game against the Chiefs. All right, and I think I brought this up last week as well on the show here. When you're playing the Chiefs in Arrowhead and you have a lead, you cannot go into your run the clock offense with just under 5 minutes to go. Um, it's the Chiefs are a better run defense than Dallas was, and Dallas was pretty good at it. But you can't go in there with like I think it was 459, 458, and they just ran the ball twice, and then they threw it out to Calcaterra to gain a couple yards. And I remember texting a couple people like, you cannot do this right now in Arrowhead. You have to play your style of offense. You have to go AJ over the middle. You have to go Goddard, who wasn't in there, but you have to hit the. You can't just do two running plays in a quick 4 or 5 yard gain. To me, that's going to catch up with them. Talking about the lack of creativity in the Eagles' offense at this point, anyway. I think that could have come close to costing him the game. Luckily, it didn't. But you got to just keep playing football. It worked last year. There were some drives last year where they held onto the ball for 8 minutes, 7.5, 8 minutes to close out the game. I get that, but it's a different style of offense this year. And man, they're not quite ready to run games out with under 5 minutes to go. You still got to be playing your offense. You can be careful at it. You don't have to throw in a double coverage or anything like that. Get a safe route. But to try to run the clock out with under 5 minutes, just under 5 minutes, didn't do it for me last week. Yeah, it did turn out the right way, but I was, questioning that drive the entire, post game, even into today, as you can see.
So they've kind of given me a two things can be true situation here, in
Yeah.
that I'll harken back to the lack of creativity in the offense
Mhm.
from 2023.
Yeah.
That said, the very first play of the game, Jalen fumbles the ball, Calcaterra falls on top of it.
Right.
If you watch that play, Grant Calcaterra is lined up just off the tackle. Granson shifts down the line of scrimmage. Calcaterra misses his block off the
Right.
edge on the blitz.
hmm
That doesn't give Granson enough time to get over to it. AJ Brown is on the right side of the field running his head into the goalpost. He's wide open.
Yep.
He's wide open. If that play gets blocked up and Jalen gets a second to just climb that pocket, that's a touchdown on the first play of the game.
Okay.
So I don't want to. What I will say though is, so that they're looking at shots. They were going to take a shot. AJ Brown's still running. If that
hmm
if that if that even gets a little chip, that goes to showing you how much Dallas Goedert I think means to this
Sure.
offense,
Yep.
because I think he at
Absolutely.
least gives you enough time to make that play. To
Yep.
your point about Dallas Goedert and some of the plays over the middle of the field, yes, I think I'd like some of their hot checks to get to the middle of the field. I want to give a ton of credit to the Kansas City Chiefs. Both of these defenses tackled really well. If you watch that game, there are a
They
couple of
did.
plays where the Chiefs send more numbers than the Eagles can block. Smitty makes a catch. If
Oh,
Smitty makes that guy miss, he's
man.
gone.
Yep.
AJ catches a slant. If AJ makes that guy miss, he's gone. So it's there's part of me that yes, you would like to see more points. I think we got so wrapped up in what they did against Washington and Kansas City to end the season last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Those games, you're not going to score 55 and 40 plus all the time,
Correct.
in those games. That said, however, I do like to see that they have taken shots. They have gone for, and it just hasn't worked out their way. Flip side of that is the middle of the field to me just has not been exposed at all for opposing defenses. The
Yeah.
Chargers on that Friday night game against Kansas City crushed Kansas City with mesh routes and flood
Yeah. Yeah.
concepts and drags over the middle of the field. That just wasn't there in the Eagles offense. Really hasn't been a part of the Eagles offense through the first two games. So I'd like to see a little more of that, a little more creativity and trying to get the ball over the middle of the field.
I think with Dallas playing this weekend, well, I just did the Eagles injury report. I think he was a full participant yesterday, which
Yes.
means a lot in practice. So if you can get
Yes.
him back, not only with the passing over the middle as you were saying, but getting him back in general for the pass blocking and even some of the run blocking and his routes, it's going to make a huge difference to the offense. So I think they could have put up. Okay, let's give that touchdown that you said. If Goddard was in there hitting that block that Calcaterra missed, maybe that's another 7 points. Maybe you get another seven. Maybe they could have put up closer to 30, 28 points if Goddard was in the offense. I mean, it is one of those. He does make a big
Joey
difference.
agrees. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, Joey does agree. Yeah, and I
It
don't
is
know
the
if I.
Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage. You can check them out at bankobeverage.com.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see the approach this weekend. The Rams come
Yeah.
to town. Rams playing good defense. They've given up 9 and 19 points to the first two games of the season.
Yeah.
But the difference in the two games these two teams played last year was Saquon Barkley. Saquon ran
Yeah.
all over them in LA. Saquon ran all over them in the divisional round of the playoffs. Do you see the Eagles running game really finding its way this week against the Rams?
I don't think it's. I think they're going to get better at it. I mean, Saquon did have 88 yards last week, so that he had more last week, I think, than he did in the
Mhm.
Super Bowl rushing. But I mean, I think they're going to do well. I don't think Saquon is not going to be Saquon of last year. We're not going to see that what we saw last year. That was a special season. He's still going to be a great running back, and I think he's going to be close to 100 yards again, if not break it. But I don't think we're going to see a big play of 80 yards like we did last year. I don't think we're going to see big pop of 70, 60-yard runs. I don't see that happening this time with Saquon necessarily in the running game. But I think the Eagles will be able to match up well with the Rams. I'm a little concerned. This will be the biggest test of the year, and we can say that all year long for our corners against the Rams wide receivers. It's going to be a test. It could be a long day. I hope not. I hope their corners are getting better week to week, which it seems like even last week wasn't a bad game. But I think it's going to be a big test, and I think the Eagles' offense does open up this week a little bit more, though. I do have that feeling. They're back at home. They're 2-0. They're flying high after beating a great Kansas City team, and I think they're going to open up. You're going to see some wrinkles we haven't seen yet. I think from the Birds' offense.
Yeah, you mentioned the defensive side of the ball. We'll
Yeah.
swing over to that way here a little bit. You mentioned flying. I don't think it should
Yeah.
be lost that the Rams were in Tennessee, flew back to LA, have to fly back to Philly this
Right.
week either.
Right.
Some of those things you just got to kind of consider.
That only
Um,
happens to us. It seems like.
yeah, ask
Hasn't it?
Eagles fans, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that defense, particularly. You mentioned the defensive backs a little bit.
Yeah.
It was better last week. I think a big part of that comes down to communication.
Does.
You look at the touchdown that the Chiefs scored there at the end of that game. That looked like a communication thing. You've got a rookie in his second game and Drew Makuba back there. Adoree Jackson, when he's in, is brand new to this defense. So I'm going to continue to kind of give a little bit of grace to the defensive
Oh,
backs through the first couple of weeks of the season. They've given up 17 points in their last
yeah.
6 quarters. And you could argue that last touchdown that Kansas City scored really was just a blunder on
Yeah.
communication there for the Eagles. So the defense, what are you seeing? What do you like? You mentioned that you'd like to see a little bit more out of the defensive backs, but what's caught your eye in a positive way from the defense so far?
Well, you brought it up earlier from last week as well. The tackling, they're sticking this year, And not that they didn't last year, but I don't see a lot of missed tackles with the defense, even the younger guys. That's really good to see. I do see a lot of, I like what I'm seeing in Zach Bond and the linebackers. I do like, the linebacker play early on this year. The defensive line still concerns me a little bit. We got to Mahomes a little bit last week. We did do a little bit of blitzing. So we got to Mahomes a little bit, but I see the defense only improving week to week. I really do. I know I had some issues with the corners, but like you said, communication. They have a lot of talent on the defense. They
Yeah.
lost a lot of talent, but they replaced it with a lot of talent. So I think the more they play together, the more they come in these situations of you know I as much as we hate it, being on the field for as long as they have. If they're on the field for 7 minutes, they're learning from this. I think so. I think the more experience they have with this, I think they're just going to get better and better. And this year's defense, again, you go out there saying, "All right, I think we can stop them." I do. I have faith in the defense. I have faith in our linebackers. Our safeties our corners are only going to get better. Our safeties are good. Our defensive line does need to get a little bit more pressure. And I'm drawing a blank of the guy we just got from the Lions. Made an
Zadarius
impact.
Smith, who played
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
and looking at that pickup from last week already, talking about a brand spanking new defense, here
Yeah.
he comes in, and makes some plays already. So I think with some of these, newer guys that they're throwing in, I think the defense is only going to get better. Will it be the number one defense in the NFL towards the end of the season? I don't know, but they're looking pretty good, and I have really a lot of faith in their defense this year.
One of the words you mentioned there was timing and how
Yeah.
long the defense is on the field. I want to talk about
Mhm.
the tush push a little bit because I think one
Sure.
of the elements that I think people are missing out on is a part of the reason. I'm sure everybody's already seen Chris Jones, who was a monster in that game on Sunday,
Hmm.
talking about how they've run it 7 times in a row or whatever the case may be, and you still
Yeah.
can't stop it.
Yeah.
I think what gets lost in that play is as unsexy as it is to probably the 31 other teams in the NFL, it
Yeah.
is such a back-breaking play for
Mhm.
a team. Your offense is on the sideline. Hey, it's third down,
Yep.
punt return team, let's get ready. Offense, we're looking at X, Y, and Z. We're probably going to have the ball around the 20. Here's what we're thinking
Yep.
first couple plays. And then they go ahead and they pick up a yard and it's a first down. Everybody's got to
Yes.
go sit back down.
Isn't
And
that
for your
great?
defense that you
Mhm.
just mentioned, that's an extra couple of minutes that they're getting to catch their wind, get themselves regrouped, get back out on the field. So as we talk about the offense a little bit, I almost think that is a strategic thing here a little bit. The Eagles are saying, we're going to run the football. We're going to protect the football. We're going to take our shots when we get them. We're not going to push the envelope unless we have to. When's the last time this team was down? When this team was down and had to really, they were forced to throw the football. It's
Right.
been a long time since that's
Yeah.
happened. So it's almost like, why are we going to show that if we don't have to? When the time
Right.
comes and we need to heat it up, we feel
Yeah.
good that we can go ahead and heat it up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to give you death by 1,000 cuts. We're going to come at you with a butter knife and we're going to do this how we want to do it. I guess my question as I talk about the tush push here a little bit is,
Yeah.
do you think refs are going to be having like a hand already in their pocket the first time the Eagles line up to run that against the Rams, especially with all the conversation after the game last week?
I do. I do. And what really got me with the whole conversation was the fact that the dean of who was it, Dean Blandino? I
Yeah,
can't remember who started off saying I give up on this. That's not fair. Did I tell you about this already? That's just, to me, that is not a fair state. You cannot say that and expect this to go, okay, if the Eagles jumped, then throw a flag.
right.
If that's what you see, then you throw the flag. That's fine. Don't
Yeah.
just say I'm going to give up on it because I'm so lost on this. No, you're on the field, you're on the line, you can see who moves first. You're still have a good view of who's moving first. If that's the case, throw the flag. Don't just get rid of the tush push altogether because, quote, I give up on calling this play. I don't think that's fair to the Eagles. I don't think it's fair to the Eagle fans. I don't think it's fair to me, who loves that play. But don't just give up on it. Joey, he's digging it too. Don't just give up on the play because, oh, and I can't tell who's offsides. Yes, you can. Throw the flag if they're offsides. It's a false start. That's fine. They need to be better at that if that's the case. But I feel very compassionate about this play.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
interested to see where it evolves from
yeah,
here because there's no doubt about it that Nick Sirianni's talking to the guys and being like, "Hey, we've, for a lack of a better phrase, like we've got to be on our best behavior with this thing.
yep,
We've got to be
correct,
lined up correctly.
yep,
Can't have heads over the ball. Can't be flinching the ball down there if you're Cam Jurgens."
yeah,
It's a fascinating thing. And Kansas City really, I mean, there was the one play where Frank Clark literally timed it perfectly, jumps over the top, lands on Jalen Hurts' back, and Jalen is still able to move his legs and
yeah,
get forward. So it really is kind of an impossible play to stop. I would imagine there are going to be a ton of, I don't know if you bring the side judges in because the formation's so tight,
then you
because
do. That's
but
fine.
the problem is, the problem there is if all of a sudden the Eagles do pull it and run an option play or run something vertical down the field, the refs are out of position from where they're supposed to be. So it is a complicated play. I'm really
Yeah,
happy it's ours and not somebody else's. I will
good
say
point.
that.
Agreed.
But I think there will be a ton of eyes on that play
Yeah.
this week and certainly going forward. And so we get set to make a pick here,
All right.
Sammy. The Rams coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, a big trip, rematch of the divisional round last year, a game that came down to
Oh,
the final minute down there. Jalen Carter makes a couple of plays. How do
yeah.
you see this one playing out, big
Well,
guy?
the most important thing, and I checked already, I don't see any snow in the forecast for kickoff. So that's the most important thing. That could go
Yet,
against us. That does go against us, I believe.
yet,
Uh,
yeah.
the Rams came oh so Crockett. I never pick against the birds. I am not feeling that great at this because they came so close to beating us, and that last drive really concerned me. However, it's a different team than last year. We don't have the same defensive unit on the field as last year. I say the Eagles win by two.
Okay. So let me
Two.
ask you, in year two, is that it hitting the 30 mark, or is that somewhere in the 20s? Is that somewhere in the teens?
I,
Where's your
I see late upper 20s.
okay?
I think Jake's going to have a big kick with maybe 50, 55 seconds left to go in the game, and it's going to play out as similar as it did last year
Okay.
for the final drive. But I'm not completely sold on it. It's what I'm thinking right now. I'm a little concerned over this game. Let's put it that. Again, I hate picking against the birds because it's tough. But this one, I'm a little, yeah,
I think I feel a little different than I did yesterday. We were on with
yeah, yeah,
Tom and Connor on Fox Sports yesterday, and I said I could see this game being a couple of points, a 27-23
yeah.
kind of a game. I don't think we've seen the best of the Eagles yet, and they're 2-0.
Hmm.
They're coming back home, a 1 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday, which feels like
Beautiful.
they're an anomaly right
Yeah.
now, but a 1 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday, a long travel for the Rams, an early kickoff for the Rams, back-to-back road games for the Rams. Tony Pollard runs for 92 yards on 20 carries last week. I think Saquon has himself a day on Sunday. I still see it 20 something to 20 something. I
Yeah.
think maybe yesterday I was in the same realm that you were of a Eagles, kind of put it
Yeah.
away late. I think the Eagles have this game in hand a little bit, and the Rams make it interesting, just like that divisional round game last year. But I
Mhm.
think the Eagles, I'll stick with that score 27, 23, 25, 20 something ish. But I think the Eagles take care of business at home at the Link on Sunday. We will see. We'll hear Merrill and Mike on the call
Yes, we
on Cat
will.
Country 96. So you can go ahead and hear the game right there. It is the
Mhm.
Cat Country 96 Birds Recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage Company. Sammy, always a pleasure, my buddy. Go
Always.
Birds. Go
Go
Birds. We'll catch
birds.
up next week, see how it goes on the Cat Country 96 Birds Recap.
See ya.